She was part of their prayers. Their trusted neighbor. The woman who brought cupcakes to school fundraisers and sat silently at PTA meetings. A mother, grieving in public, eyes puffy, voice cracking, when cameras rolled. But on the evening of May 13, 2025, something shattered in the calm, tree-lined streets of Fleurhof, a modest middle-class suburb nestled between rolling fields and fenced homes. That Tuesday began like any other. Jaden Lee Meek, just 11 years old, packed his school bag, grabbed a slice of toast, and waved goodbye to his mother, Tiffany, as he walked out the front door of their second-floor apartment. Neighbors recall seeing him at the corner store later that afternoon. A quiet, polite boy. Always in uniform. Always on time. But by 4:30 p.m., there was silence. No footsteps climbing the stairs. No bag dropped at the front door. No, I'm home, Mom. As dusk fell, something didn't feel right. But still, no call to police. Not at 6 p.m. Not at 8. Not even by midnight. Instead, WhatsApp groups in the Fleurhof community began buzzing. One parent sent a message. Anyone seen Jaden from number 12? He didn't show up for homework club. Others replied with concern. Some thought maybe he went to a friend's house. Others hoped he'd show up any minute. But as the hours ticked by, a quiet fear spread. At 1:27 a.m., a flyer began circulating, a grainy image of Jaden in his school uniform, smiling faintly, with the words, "Missing, last seen May 13th. Flyers were hastily printed. Within hours, they were pinned to tree trunks, light poles, and community notice boards. Some neighbors formed impromptu search parties, walking down alleyways and peering into empty lots. Others called hospitals. Some knocked on doors. And still, no official police report. It wasn't until Wednesday morning, almost 12 hours later, that a call finally came in. "My son is missing." The voice was trembling. It was Tiffany Meek. The woman now seen on local news, standing outside her apartment, arms folded, eyes red. She told reporters her son never came home. She begged anyone with information to step forward. She said she was terrified and couldn't sleep. But soon, the community started to ask difficult questions. Why had she waited so long? Why wasn't she outside searching through the night with the others? Why did no one recall seeing her knock on doors, or call neighbors, or post about Jaden on social media until the morning after? Whispers turned into suspicion. Behind every hug she received, there was a glance exchanged between neighbors. A quiet doubt. In just 24 hours, Fleurhof transformed from a peaceful suburb into a town filled with grief, confusion, and suspicion. And at the center of it all, the one person who was supposed to know Jaden best, was becoming the town's greatest mystery. The next morning, May 14, 2025, the search that had gripped an entire neighborhood came to an abrupt, horrifying end. At exactly 9:42 a.m., officers responded to a call for a wellness check at the Meek residence, apartment 12B. They entered the home slowly, accompanied by a social worker and a landlord who unlocked the door. The search that had stretched into the forests and across town ended, not in a distant alley or abandoned lot, but right there, inside Jaden's own home. In the small, dimly lit bedroom at the back of the apartment, under a blanket, they found the lifeless body of Jaden Lee Meek. No signs of a struggle. No signs of forced entry. Just a child, still and pale, as if frozen in time. Beside him, neatly folded on a wooden chair, was his school uniform. His shoes tucked beneath it. Almost like someone had laid them out, with intention. The room was quiet. Too quiet. As the news broke, grief spread through Fleurhof like wildfire. What had once been a search became a scene of mourning. What had been hope turned into collective heartbreak. Parents held their children tighter that morning. School was cancelled. Candles were lit outside the local church. And by noon, the tragedy was everywhere: local news, national headlines, social media hashtags. How could a child vanish and end up dead in his own home? How did no one see this coming? Why wasn't the apartment searched earlier? Fingers pointed quickly. First at the police, for not acting fast enough. Then at the neighbors, for assuming he was safe. But ultimately, and perhaps inevitably, the focus turned to Tiffany Meek. The mother who stood on camera begging for her son's return. The mother who hadn't reported him missing until hours after dark. The mother who was now being watched more closely than ever before. At first, she was seen as a heartbroken parent, too devastated to speak. But now, every word she'd said, every tear, every pause in her interviews, was being replayed, dissected, and doubted. What did she know? What wasn't she saying? And most disturbing of all, how could a boy be dead in his own home, while his mother claimed he was missing? The grief in Fleurhof was giving way to suspicion. And it wouldn't take long before the full truth, or what passed for it, would begin to unravel. Just days after the discovery, the unthinkable happened. Tiffany Meek was arrested. The grieving mother was now a murder suspect. June 17, 2025, the courtroom in Rüdeper was overflowing. Protesters stood outside with signs. Tiffany stood inside the dock, dressed plainly, her face unreadable, her eyes restless. Her lawyer, Advocate Novan Naidu, was ready for battle. He questioned everything. Why wasn't a blood-stained towel tested? Why were key photos missing timestamps? Why wasn't the crime scene sealed? The investigating officer Sergeant Nabatico stuttered through his responses. It didn't cross my mind. The defense tore into the case. A blood-stained towel found in the apartment, left untested. Photos shown in court, undated. No proof they were taken the day Jaden was found. And most shocking of all, the apartment was never sealed as a crime scene. Anyone, the defense argued, could have entered. Could have planted evidence. Like the school bag, supposedly proving Jaden came home. But the defense called it a staged prop, planted to sell a story. The courtroom was tense, but outside, rage was uncontained. Black placards. Red lettering. Justice for Jaden. No bail for killers. Crowds pushed against metal barriers. Online, the noise grew louder. Some called Tiffany a grieving mother. Others labeled her a murderer. Inside court, prosecutors used that very rage. If she was released, they said, she could be harmed. But the defense fired back, and if she stays in prison, is she any safer? Guards talk. Inmates read headlines too. Inside the courtroom, tension hung in the air like fog. But outside, it was rage that gripped the streets. Black placards. Red lettering. Justice for Jaden. No bail for killers. Crowds pressed against metal barricades, chanting, shouting, refusing to be ignored. Grief had given way to fury. Every court hearing became a media circus. Every appearance by Tiffany Meek brought waves of shouting. And online, the noise was deafening. Some called her a grieving mother, unfairly targeted. Others didn't hesitate, murderer, monster, she knew. TikTok theories. Twitter threads. Facebook groups that dissected every expression on her face. People didn't just want answers, they wanted someone to blame. And prosecutors didn't ignore the crowd. They leaned into it. In court, they argued. If Tiffany Meek walks out of this courtroom, she's at risk. She could be harmed. Or worse. But the defense fired back, calm, cold, and cutting. And if she stays behind bars, is she any safer? Guards talk. Inmates read headlines. This isn't protection, it's punishment before proof. Both sides weaponized the same fear. That justice wouldn't come, or that it already had, too quickly. Inside, the law demanded restraint. Outside, the people demanded blood. And in the middle of it all stood one question, loud and haunting. Was Tiffany Meek a mother in mourning, or a killer hiding in plain sight? Inside the courtroom, closing arguments wrapped. Both sides had played their hands. The defense stood firm. The evidence was flawed, the investigation sloppy, and their client, Tiffany Meek, unfairly targeted. They argued she had every reason to stay, to face trial, and no reason to run. The prosecution, however, refused to budge. They insisted she was a flight risk, that she posed a threat to the process, and possibly to herself. The stakes, they said, were too high. And then, a twist. Two private investigative firms stepped in. Not hired. Not paid. Offering their services pro bono. To search for the real killer. The room fell quiet. If there's someone else, who is it? And if there isn't, what are these firms chasing? Outside, the chaos never stopped. Signs. Shouts. Justice for Jaden. No bail for Tiffany. The court of public opinion had made its ruling. But inside the actual courtroom, the system moved slowly, deliberately. No verdict. No final word. Not yet. The judge postponed Tiffany's bail decision. And so the world waits. Not with patience. But with questions. Is Tiffany Meek a mother hiding a dark truth? Or is she another casualty, of a broken system, of public rage, of justice stretched thin? As the gavel lingers above the bench, one thing is clear. This is no longer just about a mother or a son. It's about trust, truth, and the thin line between justice and judgment.